Hello, and welcome to the big HITC 7's Fantasy Premier League preview. I make one of these videos before the start of every season, and, well, almost no one watches them. But the handful of people who do always ask me to do another one, so here we are again. It also gives me the opportunity to shout out the HITC 7's Fantasy Premier League Mini League, which isn't all that mini, which we run every season. If you have been in the league in previous seasons and you create a Fantasy Premier League team using the same account, then you will automatically rejoin the league when you create your new team. If you haven't entered the league before and you would like to join, then the code you will need in order to do so is just lpovak. That is LPOVAK. Don't worry if you didn't catch that. I'll repeat it again for you at the end, and I'll try to remember to copy and paste it into the video description below. That way, you can just copy and paste it as well if you wish to join. I'll try to keep a bit more up to date with it this season and give regular shout outs to whoever is topping our table and the title race throughout the season. And, how rubbish I'm doing. This is my 12th season playing FPL, which means that my FPL team is the same age as RB Leipzig. And as you can see, I am in absolutely no position to be offering out advice with any authority. I finished 611,295th in the world last season, which is about 350,000 places lower than the previous season. So if anything, I am regressing as an FPL player. Nonetheless, like a strange middle-aged man in a bar to a girl half his age, I am going to offer my unsolicited and uninformed opinions and advice to you all. You are free, and would probably be well advised, to disregard all of it. There's not going to be much structure to this video, but I have tried to break down some potential bargains, wildcards, and players to avoid. So, I'll start with the bargains. Every year on FPL, there are a handful of real gems out there who seem bizarrely underpriced as the season goes on. As they amass a huge number of points in relation to their price tag, their price will climb as the season wears on. But rarely does a genuine bargain player's price increase enough to prevent them from remaining a real catch. As such, by the end of the season, these players tend to be in about 40 to 50% of players' squads, and about 80 to 90% of those who actually update their team frequently and are among the top 50% of players. Last season, that was probably Emiliano Martinez, priced at just £4.5 million, putting him in the bargain basement price bracket among first-choice goalkeepers. The FPL scouts at the beginning of last season tipped Matt Ryan as the best of the budget options, also priced at £4.5 million. Ryan ended the season with fewer than 50 points, after being dropped by Brighton and sent on loan to Arsenal. Meanwhile, Martinez won 186 points, by far the highest tally of any goalkeeper in the league. The season before that, it was John Lundstrom, listed as a defender on the game in a Sheffield United team that kept a lot of clean sheets, despite the fact that he actually played in midfield and scored a fair few goals. A season earlier, it was Trent Alexander-Arnold, priced at just £5 million as a defender, but an absolute assist machine. So who will it be this season? I don't see any glaringly obvious out-of-position bargains, such as Lundstrom. Certainly there are some midfielders who could easily be categorised as forwards. Anthony Martial has played through the middle in some of Manchester United's pre-season games and is no stranger to playing there. And at a lower price point, you have Brian Mbeumo, who tended to play quite high up the pitch in and around Ivan Toney last season, scoring 8 goals and making 10 assists as Brentford won promotion from the Championship. He's priced at £5.5 million on the game, and in terms of attacking players who are almost certain to start the vast majority of their team's games, I don't think there are too many more attractive options out there. Forgetting the out-of-position restriction, Ben White looks like fantastic value of £4.5 million. He's not alone in looking like good value at that price point. The likes of Connor Cody, Wesley Fofana, and Mason Holgate could all prove to be attractive propositions, either as rotation options or as regular starters if Wolves, Leicester or Everton start to keep consistent clean sheets. Everton's defensive assets are certainly worth keeping an eye on in that regard, since we know Rafa Benitez is a man who defends first and attacks second, and one would expect him to make shoring up their backline his priority. For that reason, Michael Keane also looks like decent value at £5 million, offering a bit of a goal threat with 3 goals and 1 assist last season, so long as he starts almost every game when fit. Luca Dean may be Everton's most attractive defensive option, should he be fully fit, and he may well be worth the added £0.5 to £1 million for his attacking returns from fullback. Elsewhere, I found a bit of a dilemma in my initial FPL draft between two potential defensive bargains at West Ham, namely Aaron Cresswell at £5.5 million and Vladimir Coufal at £5 million. Cresswell was the third highest returning defender on the game last season, Andy Robertson, and Trent Alexander-Arnold the only other defenders to win more than 150 points, as he hit double digits in terms of assists. That is a tremendous return, thanks largely to Cresswell's deliveries into the box from corners and free kicks in wide areas. Coufal found himself some way behind Cresswell last season on 128 points, though he did play 4 games fewer than his English teammate. I think this is a tough one, and with Coufal likely to produce an equal or even greater number of assists from open play, it basically comes down to how highly you value Cresswell's set-piece premium. If that is worth £0.5 million to you, then he's your man. In the end, I went for Coufal to free up that extra cash to invest in my midfield. Moving on to the midfield, one wildcard who I am not saying will, but theoretically could prove to be a fantastic bargain is Andros Townsend at £5.5 million. He won't be making my team from the start because there are simply too many variables and too high of a probability that he won't start. But if he does get a consistent run of starts, and we know that Benitez likes him, then he is capable of stringing a few performances together, enjoying a purple patch of form, and posting great numbers for his price bracket. That is a big if. At the same price, Michael Elise is the player that I liked a lot at Reading last season, but I tend to avoid signings who are new to the league. Emil Smith-Rowe, Gabriel Martinelli, and Callum Hudson-Odoi all fall into that bracket of player that I wouldn't pick from the start, but would be great bargains if they start to get regular game time. If we step it up a notch in terms of price, if Rafinha can start this season how he ended the last at Leeds United, there won't be a better option out there at £6.5 million. He made 11 goal contributions from January onwards last season, despite missing 3 games out injured. Also priced at £6.5 million, there is no reason why Bukayo Saka couldn't be a key man for Arsenal this season. There were times last season in which he was, quite literally, the Gunners' key man, even age 19, so he is certainly worth considering. And just £0.5 million more expensive, at £7 million, you've got both Harvey Barnes and Wilfried Zaha. In the interest of full disclosure, Harvey Barnes is in my first draft FPL team, though I would openly admit that is a dangerous move. He has been out of action since February after sustaining a knee injury which ruled him out of the Euros. Not that I think Gareth Southgate would actually have selected him for his final squad. Nonetheless, Barnes is a fantastic FPL player, as he was starting to prove before that injury ruled him out. He was beginning to share the Foxes' goal-scoring burden with the likes of Jamie Vardy and James Maddison, with his clever movement and composed finishing becoming a real weapon for Brendan Rodgers' men. Barnes made 10 goal contributions in 12 games before getting injured, and if he can produce that kind of form at the King Power once again, he will be a steal at £7 million. Wilfried Zaha is an equally enticing but dangerous option at that same price point, as Crystal Palace's star man, but someone who plays in a team who might not create all that many chances or score a huge number of goals. It remains to be seen how the pragmatic Patrick Vieira will set Crystal Palace up next season, and even where Zaha will actually play. He became increasingly dangerous when utilised through the middle last season, but Christian Benteke's improved goal-scoring form could well see him moved back out wide. In terms of players who are listed as forwards on FPL, I really don't think there are too many genuine bargains. Ivan Toney is the obvious shout, as someone who scored an incredible 33 goals last season, and will undoubtedly be Brentford's talisman up front. Brentford will come to play most teams this season, rather than parking the bus, which should mean Toney gets opportunities. If the last 3 seasons are anything to go by, then chances for him mean goals, and I suspect he will hit double figures, making him the best value within his price bracket. It won't surprise you when I tell you that he is in my team. Timu Pukki at £6 million might be your next best option in that price range, unless we see Tammy Abraham make a move somewhere else where he's going to get regular game time. If he does that, then, at £6.5 million, he could be the best priced forward on the entire game, and a must-have budget option. Abraham is one of a few players worth keeping an eye on at the top teams in case they get moves, who could become really good value if they head out on loan or are sold permanently, but then again, I thought that about Ryan Brewster at £4.5 million or whatever he was last season, and he ended up failing to score a single goal in 27 appearances for Sheffield United, so just remember not to pay any attention to anything that I say. In terms of players to avoid, I think a lot of forwards look like poor value. Aubameyang at £10 million is, well, a full-on premium asset, despite the fact that he was outscored by Alexander Lacazette and Nicola Pepe last season. His points per game and per minute record remains impressive, but I would find it very difficult to justify a price tag like that unless he hits a real purple patch of form, and I'm not at all surprised that he only has 3% ownership. Danny Welbeck, Joe Linton, Fabio Silva, Troy Deeney and Roberto Firmino all fall into the bracket of overpriced forwards who are unlikely to score enough goals to justify their prices as well. Firmino in particular always seems to be overpriced on FPL. Who's paying £9 million for him when you could get Ollie Watkins for £7.5 million or Dominic Calvert-Lewin for £8 million? Who knows? It seems like madness to me. Sadio Mane seems way overpriced at £12 million, given the fact that Son Heung-min scored over 50 points more than him last season, but comes in at a whopping £2 million less. That is a huge price difference on FPL. Mane is the same price as Kevin De Bruyne, who is just about the most consistent point provider throughout a season on the game when fit. Meanwhile, he is the same price as Bruno Fernandes, who was, literally, the highest scoring player on the entire game last season. As I said, I am far from an FPL expert, but I suspect forking out the extra £0.5 million required to get Salah instead of Mane would be sound advice. At Aston Villa, Jack Grealish will attract a lot of attention at £8 million, though it remains to be seen where he will be playing next season, at least at the time of this recording. I actually think that Grealish is a more attractive asset if he stays at Aston Villa, where he is the captain, star man, and will play every week, than if he were to make an enormous move to Manchester City, where he would be in a more talented and free-scoring team, but would be subject to Pep's rotation roulette, particularly on that left flank. For a similar reason, despite the fact that I absolutely adore him and think he's a dream of an FPL player if he were to play every week, I won't be picking Raheem Sterling from the off, given his £11 million price tag. Oh, actually, speaking of England players, I forgot to mention Mason Mount. At £7.5 million, I think he is very fairly priced, as someone who is guaranteed to start almost every game and will chip in with consistent goal contributions throughout the course of a season. My more speculative shout for Chelsea, though, is the slightly more expensive Kai Havertz. Priced at £8.5 million, Havertz is actually the only midfielder on FPL at that price point, and he is selected by just 11% of users. I am one of those 11%, at least with regards to my initial draft. I like Havertz a lot, and not only did he grow as last season went on, he also found himself playing increasingly further forward, sometimes almost as a false nine. It's one that could backfire, particularly if Chelsea were to sign Erling Haaland, in which case I'd just take him out, but, fortune favours the brave. Another player who you'd have to be fairly brave to pick is Jadon Sancho, purely because of what I said about new signings earlier on. I think Sancho has been perfectly priced on FPL at £9.5 million, because he is incredibly tempting, but also still basically a premium asset at that price. Personally, I'm holding off just to see how he settles at Old Trafford, but I certainly wouldn't be averse to bring him in 2, 3 or 4 games into the season if he's posting numbers anything like he did in the Bundesliga. I told you that this video would be unstructured, and when I talked about Jack Grealish, I really ought to have added that if he is to leave Aston Villa, and even if he isn't I suppose, Emi Buendia is certainly one to keep an eye on at £6.5 million in midfield. He was very impressive in the Premier League as Norwich City were relegated 2 seasons ago, without producing a great deal of attacking returns. Well, that certainly wasn't the case last season, as Buendia scored 15 goals and made 16 assists in order to fire Norwich to promotion, in one of the best seasons a Championship player has ever had. He's a real menace, and whilst I haven't picked him in my first draft, he is someone I'll be paying close attention to. I think I'm just about done there. I'm aware this video is getting rather long for one that is fairly specific. As my final thoughts though, I'd say I found this to be probably the hardest FPL draft I've ever had in terms of staying under budget. Normally I put De Bruyne and Kane in my team from the word go, and then pick the rest of the team around those two. I tried to do the same this time around, and ended up with neither of them, in order to distribute quality more evenly throughout the team. Also, I did have the fact that De Bruyne is coming into this season off the back of a summer in which he basically played through an injury in the back of my mind. A word to the wise, I suspect we could see some more COVID disruption in the Premier League this season, and the odd game getting called off and postponed. With that in mind, a strong bench might not be the worst idea in the world, and all of my squad are players I would expect to start most games. One thing I'd say about FPL this year is that the genuine bargain basement players in each position, with the exception of midfield, really are absolute dross. Not as players, I don't mean, but as FPL players. Barely any of them will play a minute, and those who do are unlikely to score any points. The four £4.5 million forwards in particular are an absolute car crash, and all four might not even be at their current clubs by the end of the season. Or, even by the start of the season. The midfield is the one exception to that rule, where you have got the likes of Douglas Luiz and Yves Bissouma at £4.5 million. But as a rule, the cheapest options outside of midfield just aren't going to play many games. So that is it for today's video, but just a reminder that the code to join the league is LPOVAK. Again, I'll try to remember to put it in the description, but I am fairly useless. That is lpovak, just in case I don't. And if I don't, remind me and I'll post it in the comments or update the video to put it in the description. Thank you all as ever for watching, it is much appreciated. Hit the like button if you enjoyed today's video, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and make sure that you're subscribed and have notifications turned on for HITC7s. You can also find me on Twitter or on Instagram by the username at HITC7s on both, should you wish to do so.